Welcome to episode 35. We are talking to Ciara, the bodywork guru. If you have ever wondered if you should get a massage, what kind of massages there are, what is it all about, how do I decide what kind of massage therapist or bodywork specialist to go to, this is the episode for you. We dig in, literally, into bodywork and the hows, the whys, what you need to know, and why pretty much everybody should get some body work done. It's going to make you feel good. The episode will make you feel good, and body work's going to make you feel good. Welcome to the show. And we're speaking with your guest today. Mm-hmm. So why don't you introduce your guest and then let all of us in on what we're talking about?
Yeah. So this is Ciara, and Ciara and I have known each other for almost 4 years now. Mm-hmm. And randomly met kind of through a mutual gym situation. She had an office. She does body work. How would you describe what you do?
So I went through different phases. When I first got, licensed as a massage therapist, I strictly was marketing myself as a sports massage therapist because I strictly worked with athletes. But then when I started getting into like ashiatu, which is working with my feet, I was like, okay, this is more than just sports massage. Like I don't just use a hypervolt and cups and scraping. I do all those things if I feel like they're needed. But I would just consider myself a body worker, soft tissue therapist. But now recently I've started getting more into the holistic side, Reiki, and just I know how misunderstood bodybuilders are. Being married to one, being exposed. There was a point in time where I was, thinking about stepping on stage, but then health, stuff started coming up and I was just like, okay, that's not for me. But I'm still just drowned in the bodybuilding
100%. Yeah.
and that's where my truth comes because bodybuilders endure so much, not just physically, but like mentally and emotionally. Honestly, the mental and emotional stressors of bodybuilders' lives drive them to physically strive to be what they are.
Right.
But there's a lot of bodybuilders that are just broken.
Well,
And
you know what they say, right? Breakups make bodybuilders. I mean,
yeah.
so like, so I met you at the gym.
Mhm.
And you had an office there that you were renting out, and I had never really like done body work on a regular basis unless it was just like going to a chiropractor or something like that to some degree. And I knew that in where I was sort of in my bodybuilding journey, I had to kind of take care of myself in a different way, or more regularly, I should say. At least that was my first initial approach. So then I saw you every single week, week
Mhm.
after week after week after week. And the thing that I remember very specifically when I walked into your office was that little plaque.
Yeah.
And the gist of this little plaque was like, the most beautiful people are the people who've been through the most, and like have been through gone to the other side, and they treat people with kindness and things of that nature and stuff. And I completely butchered it, but if you can recall it, you can say it.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
but ultimately, we clicked. And the reason why I want to have you on the podcast is because, well, number one, you're really good at what you do, doing body work. Hold on one second. Layla, come here. Come here. Sorry, it's my dog. She's crying. So, um, you're really good at body work. You're really good at meeting people where they are physically and mentally.
Yeah.
And but you work on the physical, the solely physical side, at least when I met you, than what I did. So I'm building somebody up and tearing them down, and you're sort of in between, repairing them in the bodybuilding world. And so really today is like the importance of what the importance of what you do, the importance of integrating that into your life as a bodybuilder, but also as just a regular general population type person, because we have a good mixture of both. And Laura is my assistant coach, and she handles the majority of general population people, and I handle, a good, well, all of the bodybuilders that are on the team.
Mhm.
So, and since you've kind of branched out and you've grown in different ways, as I've grown in different ways, and we've kind of had this parallel journey
Yeah, we
together
really
along the way, it's been sort of been my wish to get you on the podcast so that you can kind of talk about what you do, why you do it, and then also what kind of tips would you have people maybe that don't live in the immediate Raleigh area. um, where would you look if you were going to start looking for a bodywork person? you know what's the criteria that you would have sort of as a list of things that you would want to do?
yeah,
First of
for
all, what's really important though, like there are so many people that I run into. I mean, I have worked with chiropractors, I have had body work done, I've gone to various massage therapists due to moving and things like that, right? And one of the most challenging things for me is finding someone who does the work that I need done for me. And I know when I talk to just people in general about their experiences, etc., there is a wide range of body work that can actually be done for people. So I think one of the first things that might be really good for our listeners to hear is how do you delineate between the different types? Because you had stated when you started as a massage therapist, you kind of did more sports massage kind of thing, and then you kind of branched out and did. So is there a strict delineation between those types of things, or is it kind of mix and match? Are there people who only do certain types, and what is that? So if you could, like, I think kind of distill it down for us and give us a really nice definition or some sort of thing that helps people understand the differences.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I like to compare massage and as an oil change for the body. And I like to make the metaphor that, bodybuilders are like race cars. So depending on how you take care of them, how you drive them, what kind of quality are you using? So all these things matter. Well, finding a massage therapist that specializes in Ferraris and you got a Honda Civic that's going to a Ferrari dealership, I mean, yeah, they know how to do it. So I'm going to give you the equivalent to that. If you were to put a regular person on my table, yeah, I can massage them, but I specialize with bodybuilders. That is what I know the best, and that is who I work on the best. The reason for that is I'm so used to the dense tissue. I also know I am relatable to that. Like, find you a massage therapist that also trains themselves. Because if you have a massage therapist that is just a normal person who doesn't really train, they don't understand. Um, Another reason why I think I'm such a good therapist is because I get body work on a consistent basis. I know what it feels like. I know what's really uncomfortable. So, like, if I have to put someone through something that's really uncomfortable, if I'm stepping on someone's quad, I know what that feels like. So, I'm going to be in communication with them to make sure, you know, I know how much this sucks, but hey, we can, you know, talk about what you're feeling, number levels and stuff like that. Um, I kind of got off track with that, but it was still relevant. As far as finding certain practitioners that are offering what bodybuilders are wanting, um, a lot of sports massage therapists, they're very aggressive, which is what the type of work that I did. I mean, you could agree to that, right, Kenneth? Like I was very aggressive when I first started.
Well, yeah. So that's what's interesting. I think that's that's the crux of what Laura I think is trying to get to. It's like for me, when you were rough on me in the beginning, it's what I knew.
Mhm.
So like when I came to you, it's like that's what I expected.
Mhm.
Actually, there was times where I was like, "Damn girl, can you like get your elbow in there and like hurt me a little?" You know, it's like
Yeah.
I wanted you to go hard on me, and then you had to explain to me like if I go deeper into the muscle here, it's actually going to cause the muscle to do the opposite of what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I think when you're working with various types of people, and I know you work with bodybuilders almost solely, except for here recently you've picked up some, I guess, some more general population people, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, how do you determine it, like how do you determine what's right and what's wrong? Because if general sports massage therapists are aggressive, well then they're learning it from someplace, and clearly like it might fit a particular person or a particular situation, but it doesn't fit all situations. And it's kind of like your all your various modalities that you use. What do you call the stepping on me thing? I forget what it's called.
Ashiatsu.
Shiatsu. So when you started doing that, I was like, "Oh, let's see how this goes." Right? I was like, "Let's see how this goes," and I was really pleasantly surprised. Like it was probably like you leveled up,
Yeah.
right? So you're leveling up your knowledge when you pick up modalities, and then you're also trying to take that person that's in front of you and pick which one fits that person or that situation. And figuring that out, is that just experience?
Yes.
Okay.
That's just experience because everyone is so different. Everyone's different when they come in from, last week to next month. I mean, you're going through different stages, especially when you're competing. I mean, I'm not damn well not going to be doing the same body work on someone who's in peak week versus someone who's in their bulking phase. Like,
Right.
no way. Um,
And why? Why? So stop there for a second and then just say why, because you have listeners here that just don't know. Like you and I, we could sit here and talk on this wavelength between Sierra, like we can have Sierra and Kenneth time real quick, and then all of a sudden everybody else's eyes are going to glaze over, and they're going to be like, we don't even know what they're talking about. so, so if you can explain why you would do that, why you would change that in that situation. So, like for me, I'm bulking right now, which by the way, next time I see you, you got some work to do. But and then you have say like Logan, your husband, he's getting ready, he's in prep or he's starting in prep. But the deeper he goes into prep, you're gonna work on him in a different way, right?
right. So, when I have competitors who are bulking, or even in the beginning of prep, I mean, you're still dense, right?
100%.
Get really heavy. It's hard for you to put your shoes on. I mean, depending on how much size you have, but your mobility is down. So, um, doing a lot more like stretching to introduce like movement in the tissue first, and then get into deeper work is more beneficial at first because that's what they need. If I just go straight into deep tissue work, um sometimes it also depends on how often someone was getting work or not. If this is their first time getting body work, I have to feel you out. I mean, if you've been getting body work on a consistent basis, it's kind of like Play-Doh that, you've been playing with for a while. The elasticity is nice and,
Use me as an example. Like over the last 3 or 4 years that we've been working together, what was the evolution of sort of my muscle tissue? Because I'm sure in the beginning you were like, this is kind of rough. And then now I don't ever feel like you're like hurting me.
Yeah, and that's the point is like I want people to realize like it doesn't always have to hurt. Yes, we're gonna deal with some discomfort, but that's part of it. But something shouldn't hurt because if something hurts, that means your body is just tensing up. And at that point in time, it's like the therapist is playing tug of war with the client's muscle tissue because
Yeah,
they're fighting you and you're trying to sink deeper in, and they're just saying, no, you're not getting in here. Versus when we communicate and I inform clients on what's happening, kind of putting visualizations in their head. They can be
mhm.
like, "Oh, okay, I know what to expect now." But for you, when we first started, I mean, your tissue was just super gritty. I did scraping on you quite a bit when we first.
It's like old man muscle, right?
I guess you could say that. I mean, and I would define old man muscle as like if someone, because like you said, you weren't getting soft tissue work on a regular basis.
No,
So your fascia was that gritty, like feeling where it just felt like everything was superficially tight. Like, even though, because there's different layers, your fascia is your most superficial layer, and then it starts getting into the muscle fibers. So when you cut open chicken breast, and you know how it has that like white film on top of it, and it's really stuck to the chicken, and you have to just, get in there with a knife and cut it off, or you're just tearing it out, that's
mhm,
fascia. And so when that gets super stuck together, the muscle is it's almost like having your muscle in a Ziploc bag that you've sucked all the air out, and there's no room for like movement. So the more you loosen that up, the more sliding and our muscles can contract better and won't feel as just locked in a Ziploc type bag.
right.
No way.
Laurie, you're nodding your head. What are you thinking right now?
Yeah, well, so I'm a yoga instructor also, one of my many things I've done in my life. And it was very interesting. You talk about the fascia, and so many people don't understand that concept, that
Mm.
there is a giant sheet that you're talking about, and that thing is wrapped around every muscle and everything in your body, like wrapped around it. But it's not just like when you take the chicken apart, you get just that little piece. Like, it's a giant sheet that goes from
Yeah.
head to toe, and it's all connected, and that connects everything. So if you have, it's an interesting thing working with people in training, right? Like you're talking about bodybuilders and things, is like, you can work out one area, but you can, because of your fascia and because of how things are so tight or what you've done, you could be affecting another area. And you have to be really cognizant of the fact that there are other areas that are going to be impacted by that. Because, and we always say, like, what's down the chain, right? If your hip hurts, is it really your hip, or is it your knee that's out of whack, and how do you deal with that? So I think that's a great thing to let people know. I think one question when I was nodding my head that I was thinking of was, when you're talking about this, you're talking about like people who have consistent body work done, like you've consistently done that. So when you talk about that, is that different for every person, every individual, or is
It
there,
is.
is it okay? So it's not like everyone should probably get this done like twice a month or something like that. It's just different for everyone.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing to tell. There is no secret formula. Everyone is so different. And that's why I hate when people use cookie cutter type techniques and sequences because nothing's ever the same. I focus on localized massage. I rarely do full body massage because, especially with bodybuilders, because if they have a problem, it's going to take me a while to get into that area. I mean, like traps, lats, these are quads, glutes. I mean, these are huge muscles.
Right.
And when you try to address the full body, there are really good benefits from it, but if you're working out excessively, you're going to feel good for a couple of days, and then you're just going to have that knee pain. You're going to have that back pain, in a week, in a couple of days. Versus we're barely touching the surface all over the full body. But if I spend a full, session on someone's traps or a full session on someone's, just entire back, they're getting more specific work into that area. And I mean, everything comes into play. It comes in if you were overweight at one point in your life and then you lost all your weight, your skin is different, your fascia is different. Vice versa, if you were super muscular and then gained weight and then lost weight, that's a whole different type of, texture in the soft tissue. People who um just hold tension in their body all the time and they just feel really rigid. I have to I have to approach them in a totally different way. Then I have some people who are just they feel just hmm I don't want to say squishy, but their tissue is very pliable, and I usually have to use different techniques such as cupping or scraping rather than deep tissue work. Like everyone's tissue it ranges. It's so different. And that's why I don't ever like
Do you
telling
think
people,
it's, do you think the driving force behind that is the activity that they do, the level of activity they do, and the intensity in which they do it? Or do
yes,
you think,
it's that, but it's also ethnicity, it's age, it's the food you've ate. I have actually telling you this the other day or the other week. My clients who are vegan or have been vegan for quite some time and just don't intake meat, their tissue is very different than people who do intake meat. And they have more fascial restrictions than muscle restrictions. I don't really know why. I don't know the science behind that. It's just an observation that I've had based off of my experiences with different people.
yeah,
But there are so many factors that come into play on why everyone's so different. I mean, look at all these variables that we just listed.
yeah. So can you tell the difference between a regular gym goer, a CrossFit person, and a bodybuilder? It's kind of like the Coke challenge. Like, could
Yeah.
you, like, if I just blindfolded you and you had to touch each person, and you could be like, oh, this person does this.
I would like to do that someday because yeah, it's like the milk test on Napoleon Dynamite. Like,
Right.
um,
So does that, I mean, I guess that like when you're intaking a client, you have an intake form, you're addressing problem areas, but you're also understanding their background. You don't
yeah,
really dive into diet until unless you're talking to them or something, but
right. I mean, I can tell if someone takes a lot of steroids, like their skin is different.
hmm.
Um, it's, their skin texture is different. It's just there's a lot of different variables that come into play. Um, I just I forgot what I was gonna say something.
I mean, I
Maybe.
think ultimately, like for me, when I started working with you, what I saw as the biggest benefit, and I mean, I'm also just not a flexible person.
Mhm.
Uh, and but initially it was my squat. You remember? So my squat was way off. My right ankle was really, I don't even know what you would say. It's got scar tissue built up in it from an injury that I had in college. And I was dunking on somebody and like, I'm just kidding. I didn't really dunk on anybody.
I was wondering about that. I'm like, did you?
I rolled my ankle.
Were you
I
dunking
rolled
on
my
second
ankle playing
graders? What?
basketball.
Was it
So,
like second grade, third graders you were playing
hey, watch
against?
your mouth. Watch your mouth. So, in all reality, I rolled my ankle playing basketball, and I rolled it really badly. But I was so young at the time. I was like 20 years old. I didn't understand the importance of recovery.
Mm.
So, they gave me exercises, they gave me different things. And you know how many of them I did? Zero. And I was on crutches for a while. I take that back. I might have stretched some, but I don't know that I did all the rehab that they asked me to do. So I didn't understand the importance of it. It wasn't communicated to me well. And
Right.
that's kind of why I wanted to get you on, because like understanding the importance of certain things that even at the doctor's office post surgery, like they ask you to do things to recover. And recovery is a huge portion of what we do as coaches, because you can't heal something that's not recoverable. You can't grow something that's not recoverable. You can't do anything of any of those processes that matter with our clients. So getting back to me, when you're squatting, my goal was to be able to squat hamstrings to calves. Like I
Mhm.
wanted to hit my hamstrings to my calves. And I never had done that before.
Mhm.
And I also didn't feel comfortable doing it in free weight. So I started in the Smith machine. And I did enough I did enough research to know that it was my ankle. And I learned if you had
What did
knee
you
pain,
feel in your body?
what
Like
did you
before you did all that research, were you allowing your body to tell you what it needed?
Oh, my knees hurt like a bitch.
Okay.
Like my knees hurt, my lower back would hurt, stuff like that. But two things were happening. I was fixing my gut at the same time that I met you. So inflammation's going down. So that's where we really see inflammation really drop, is in joints when we're fixing somebody's gut. So that was one thing that immediately improved. So that gave me confidence to be able to break that below parallel barrier, because my knees were feeling healthy, or at least they didn't feel like they were going to snap in half. And so the other part of it was is I realized that when I bent down, my ankles, they would only, one ankle could go this way and the other ankle could only like do that, which is weird because my, look at that, that's weird. um so my wrists are the same way, but
Yeah.
ultimately I thought I've got to fix it, and I don't know how to fix it. So the one thing I thought was, if if your ankles are potentially a knee problem and your knees are potentially a hip problem, at the, the root cause would be the ankles, then I need to probably work on my feet, because my feet, because I was driving so much. I had a job where I was driving all over the place. One foot's on the gas, and I would use that same foot on the brake pedal. The other foot's not being used. So you have limited movement on your foot, you know, from, I guess, front to back or toe to heel. And then those last three toes on my foot were sort of crumpled.
Hmm.
So I was like, I need to get some toe spacers and some wide shoes.
Yeah.
So I did that first. And I remember I put those toe spacers on, and motherfucker, they were painful. I couldn't keep them on for more than 2 minutes.
Are those the
And I
toe
remember,
spacers that I got?
oh yeah.
That's interesting because I know my toes, like I have bunions. It's very interesting. And I just got those and I put them on. I was like, I had them on for a half an hour, just not a big
Yeah,
deal.
that's how messed up my foot was.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay.
And that's how like my feet are pretty narrow too.
Mhm.
So I would always have crumpled up toes. Anyway, I started to do that. And so I told Ciara about it. And I think she was almost like kind of surprised. Like I had gone and done this thing on my own, and I was
I
active.
was because I suggest that to people, and I was like, oh, okay, you look, you're ahead.
Right. You're a person who actually wants to get better by yourself. This is weird. So, because we both prescribe things to our clients and they don't do it, right, Sierra? So, like,
Yes.
so, so
Wow, I have
ultimately,
no idea what you're talking about.
so that's, we might have started bonding then, but ultimately, she started to work on my feet and my ankles, and then she gave the best thing she ever told me to do was how to warm up my ankles before I went to squat. And I do that every single leg day now. But what's wild is my flexibility in my right ankle is better than the one in my left now. And I don't know if that's because that muscle is stretched out because of the injury or what, but like I stretch it in the same way and as long as the other one, but now it's just more. I have more play with my the palm of my foot going down, and I have more play of my toes going up on my left foot. So it's kind of like the opposite. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like my wrist. If you're watching on YouTube, it's the same thing. Like I'm not exaggerating. This is what it is. So ultimately, when you told me that, Ciara, I swear to God, the very first day, I went in the Smith machine and I went hamstrings to calves, no problem. And I was like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. And
So
I started light though,
yeah.
and now I've built it up.
But when you are talking about the difference between your left and right foot and your left and right wrist,
Yeah.
this is where posture and everyday repetitive daily activities come into play. These things matter. I can have someone come in and see me once a week, and they're still going to have issues if they leave my office and do the same things, if they don't change their posture, if they don't change anything. Now, obviously, there are certain things in life that aren't going to change. If you drive a lot, that right ankle is going to be moving a lot more. Now, there are obviously things you can do. You can try to do cruise control. There are certain tips and tricks that you can, try to alleviate those problems, but
And we had to walk through that stuff too.
right, yeah,
I mean,
and then
even with my shoulder, you
Mhm.
remember, it's like my right shoulder, it always hurts at some point. It's because I've always slept on this right shoulder. So if I sleep with this shoulder crunched up like this,
Yep,
and you
for 8
expect it to
hours a
not
night.
hurt after a while, especially when, right now I'm in a bulk. And so I've gained like, I don't know, 5 pounds or something in the last 2 weeks. When you're rapidly gaining weight and then all of a sudden you're like laying on something, it's going to drastically change the way that muscle feels. So I have to actually, I remember thinking, sort of waking up in the middle of the night and being like, oh my God, I'm on my right side. I've got to flip over. So I'm flipping over with you in my head telling me you need to lay on your left side or you need to lay flat. So you actually have to train your body to
You
not
do.
do the stupid things that you've done.
Yeah. I've actually trained myself in the car because I used to have my right foot out, on hold because it's basically just where
You're
am I
attacking
gonna
the
move?
gas and the brake at the same time.
Yeah. And then
The
my
same.
my left leg is just propped up and not doing anything. And then think about the way your hips are positioned, but I started to imagine, all right, what if I just had a time lapse video of my feet, just my feet positioning in the car? What would that look like? And I could just see it in my head with how, you know, crooked my stance would be. And I said, okay, well, let me just be in the habit of straightening my feet. Every red light, straighten my feet. I'd readjust myself. And it just became this habit that I started thinking about. And now to this day, when I drive, I, my normal resting position is straight instead of cocked to the side because that was the easy, comfortable thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And well, so what's interesting is me being a bodybuilder looking at my body from a um, symmetrical standpoint. Like you probably know exactly what I'm getting ready to say. So my left quad, the sweep is like really impressive. My right quad, the sweep is still there, but it's not as impressive as the left quad. My left adductor is not as impressive as my right adductor. So both quads, if you're paying attention, look really different. Now, if you're just looking at a glance with the picture, it's not so crazy. But if you have that eye that you're looking at somebody from a symmetrical standpoint, then you're going to notice that those muscle bellies look different than these muscle bellies. And I realized, okay, that's got to be a structural issue, or it's got to be an issue where I'm favoring one side or the other, or maybe it's the driving or whatever. And so when we're starting to unpack the root cause of a problem, which is what we do as coaches, because what we see is not what we want for the outcome. And you can reel that all the way back and say there's, Karen, who's a general population client, who says, my back hurts. Well, that's the symptom of whatever the root cause is that you're doing to your back. And it could be a multitude of different things. But if you're going to a bodywork person, they're probably going to peel back the layers, at least the good ones, and tell you, okay, well, how do you sit in the car, Karen?
Right.
And then Karen's like, well, I don't, I'm hunched over like this and, driving like a grandmother. It's like, well, you probably should change your posture when you sit in the car. Then
Or
how does that
I love
translate?
for general population people is to talk about what kind of shoes are you wearing,
Yeah.
And
right?
how long have you worn them?
And how long have you worn those shoes? Absolutely,
I've
right?
had them for 5 years. They're great.
Oh my God, right? Buy new shoes, people. It's important. Goodness.
I was actually going to ask you, Laura, you mentioned that toe spacers did not bother you.
No,
So that has a lot to do with the type of shoes you wear. So it sounds like you have been wearing proper shoes for quite some time. So that's probably why the toe spacers really weren't what you needed at the time.
yeah.
And
Well, it's
Well,
also because like your feet, you have monkey feet, Sierra. Like I've never
oh
seen.
yeah, well
Like,
because of what I do.
she could grab your face with her toes and like pull it out if she wanted to.
But that's what I work with my
Right,
feet every day.
no, but
right,
I love that you brought that up because like this is a thing that if we're talking, you guys just talked a lot about bodybuilding, but let's talk about general population.
yeah,
You want to be able to have good balance. If you want to be able to pick things up, if you want to be able to go for walks or go for runs or whatever you're doing or lift weights, right? It is really, really important for you to think about your feet. There are so many people who wear shoes. By the end of the day, they're like, oh my God, I have to get out of these shoes. They're killing me. And their toes are all scrunched up. And we're talking about the fascia, right? There's fascia around those muscles of your feet.
Oh
And
yeah.
when you're wearing, oh my God, the shoes, let's just talk about those shoes that are out now that are gigantic and they have those huge soles on the shoes. And everyone's like, these are the best shoes for your feet. They're weakening your feet.
They
See,
are.
I bet you have super strong feet. Walk around barefoot, people. Take your shoes off. So important to be able, like when you're squatting, you need to be able to, like, right? Twist, break that piece of paper apart, grab the ground with your feet, do that kind of stuff, be able to connect all the way down into those feet and work on that ankle mobility. Just
Yes.
yeah. The shoes that I would recommend. Well, there's several that do it now, but the ones that I use training that are really durable or seemingly have held up for a while, and I don't even think it has zero drop. It's called barefoot shoes, and it's not what you think. It's BEAR foot shoes. So it's like rar bear foot shoes, and they're suede most of the time, or you can get canvas ones. And I actually wear them with no socks, with my toe spacers in there, and you can clean them. You don't, they're not nasty, but you can clean them. And that's what I train with in the gym, whether it's an upper body day or a lower body day. And then the other thing that I do is I walk with those toe spacers on most of my walks. And the thing that I've noticed too, growing up, um, the development of my calves were very sparse. Like I have genetically smaller calves, but like the development of my lower leg has always been small. So when I got these shoes, the development of my calves have changed too, because the way my feet actually move, the lower portion of my leg allows my leg to actually feel the full weight of my body as I'm moving through the world. So shoes are a huge impact. I mean, even if you're just a regular person, um, having your toes completely splayed out, having your ankle mobility, being able to, fully flex in both directions with your ankles, and being comfortable in your shoes to where your feet can be as wide as you want. And you have all various types of feet, right? Like, I mean, I had a
So
girlfriend at one point had feet this big, from a width standpoint. But mine are really narrow. So you got to kind of get into that space on your own. But a bodywork person can kind of give you some direction on that.
right, and I actually would like to touch on that because you mentioned it in the very beginning of this podcast. I am really good with meeting people where they're at. A common issue with this whole barefoot shoes thing kick is people are going from an extreme cushioned shoe to a raw barefoot shoe. They're not ready for that yet.
Yeah,
They need to find an in between or, have little, times in between, like you only wear this for an hour or two a
that's what
day.
I did. Yeah, that's what I
Right.
did.
We talked
It
about
was like 15 minutes. I remember you telling me, you're like, do it for 15 minutes, then call it. And because
right.
I remember I tried to do it for longer one time, and I was like, I have made a mistake with my life. Like
Yeah.
you're sitting there on the side of your bed, like my feet are never going to stop hurting. And it's a different type of pain when you overdo it with your feet because you've never done it probably.
I like to think of spacers as braces. When you first have braces put in, they hurt
Mhm.
because your gums aren't used to moving, your teeth aren't used to moving and shifting. So once you have those braces and they start tugging and pulling, that's basically what those toe spacers are doing. But the more you have your braces and the more you get them adjusted, everything starts to kind of like loosen up and soften. So they're
Mm.
used to moving. And same with the toe spacers. The more you use them, the more you have them, your toes will just adapt to that. And then you can go on to like more aggressive type recovery stuff or PT, like rolling your foot with a lacrosse ball. I mean, I have had some amazing releases from my foot that correlated all the way up to my like knee and upper thigh just from rolling my foot. And it's the strangest feeling, but like we were talking about the fascia, like it's all connected. Um
So when you're talking about that too, it reminds me of, you did like scraping on my toes,
in
and
between your toes.
it was like hearing popcorn pop. It was so
Mhm.
painful. But once you did it, it was like it broke past this super painful place that I didn't think I was going to be able to get out of. And once I broke past that super painful place, now I had all this mobility that I didn't think I could have. And so that's the other thing from an encouragement standpoint, like both sets of people, general population and bodybuilders. If you are finding yourself in a difficult spot trying to perform anything, it's probably neglect of what you're
Yeah,
actually.
the way you're doing it.
Right, you're neglecting your body. And so then what I found out too, this is what's crazy. So growing my legs was always sort of, it wasn't hard, but it wasn't as easy as my upper body. My lower body would always lag. Well, I had pain. I had ankle pain, I had knee pain, I had lower back pain. So I wouldn't push it as hard as I could on leg days. So granted, upper body would move, lower body wouldn't. As soon as I started working with you and the pain went away, I could push it. But the other thing that changed everything was my range of motion.
Mhm.
So when I could go full range of motion in a movement and actually lengthen the muscle and contract the muscle the way it's supposed to, the way that God made us, then that I saw drastic improvement in the way my legs were growing in a growth phase, or just in every aspect of my life. I remember like at one point in time when I was younger, I couldn't squat down on the floor with my feet on the floor and then stand back up
Mhm.
because I didn't have the balance. And now I have more balance at 41 years old than I did at 22 years old. And it's because of those simple things. They feel very simplistic and like sort of elementary, and they are, but they're the basis of what makes people really great. Whether you're going to be a long distance runner, whether you're going to be a bodybuilder, or whether you're just going to be a mom and you're going to pick up your kid with one arm. Um, so I don't know. That's just one thing I was thinking about there.
I mean, it's because when we took the pain away from your feet, you were actually able to get grounded and
Right.
feel, driving from your feet, because you can't grow your legs if your feet aren't on the ground, or
Right.
well, you can with like accessory movements, but we're talking about like your squats, just
Mhm.
really connecting to the ground. And it's the same thing with hands too. I mean, your connection to your grip and your feet is connection to the rest of your body. I mean, you're holding on to the weights with your hands. You're pressing energy through the floor with your feet. So it's just, and I think another thing is that people just want to hurry up and get to the fun stuff. Like they don't want to do the mobility work, but it's so important because you can't move properly without that basis,
Mhm.
without the functional movement.
And I love that you said that, because what I find with a lot of my general population, especially the people that I train, is number one, the first thing they think is, I need to go to the chiropractor. Well, my arm, my shoulder, my back, my hips, they have to go. I have to go get adjusted. I'm not
Why
kidding.
is that?
It happens.
Why is that?
I think so. Here's my thought process on that. Number one is insurance covers chiropractors, and
Yeah.
they're
To
cheap.
a point, only to a point, right?
Only to, well, they usually cover any kind of
Maintenance.
adjustment, right?
Okay.
They don't necessarily, it depends on the insurance, but a lot of times they won't cover things like manual, manipulation, that kind of thing at all, which is what we need, right? So what's interesting to me is that what people don't connect is the fact that what holds your spine in place? Your muscles, right?
Yeah.
So do the muscle work, do the mobility, do the stretching, do all of that, and your joints are going to feel better, and your back is going to feel better, and you won't have to, and maybe you'll have to get adjusted every once in a while just because life happens and that's what it is. But your muscles are also going to, if they are, like you talked about, more pliable, if they are more easily manipulated, when they put that spine back where it's supposed to be because something, whatever happened, those muscles are going to be able to hold that in place better for you. So
Yeah.
Right.
so to think about that in a way that body work is where you should start in order to be able to continue to be mobile in the world. And I talk to a lot of women about this all the time. Like you said, kind of, you want to be a good mom, you want to be a grandma. Here's my thought: I don't want to be in a nursing home. I'm going to do everything I can to be able to stay mobile my
Because
whole
if
life.
you are, I'm giving you hell, girl.
I,
I am rolling you. I'm rolling your wheelchair into the corner, and I'm gonna lock it, and I'm gonna just
yeah,
pick
and
on
I will like lose my shit. I will never.
you.
I'm a control freak. I cannot have other people telling me when I can eat and go to the bathroom. It's not going to happen. But I think that's the biggest message here is what I'm hearing you say is you need to find a bodywork person who pays attention to you and what your body is telling them that you need. I had someone I did deep tissue massage, the first lady that I ever did it with. And I said, "Oh no, I've done this." And she goes, "Oh, I don't think you have." I should have left. Um, and I went back to her like once a month, like 4 times, I think. And I would lay there for an hour sweating and dropping F bombs. He was digging in so hard. And then I found another guy, and he goes, that is not how it's supposed to be. And because of exactly what you said, if I'm digging in that hard, then you tense up on me. Yeah. And it was it was still, I mean, I got a ton of benefit from it. But I didn't have to go through the pain. And I think a lot of people think body work, and they think if it's not hot stone massage and you're not just gently touching me, then it's going to be super painful. But it doesn't have to be.
No, it does not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think what's cool is, we're really talking about longevity. You know, for bodybuilders, it's longevity in the sport. And you had touched on the mental aspect of bodybuilders and how like that drives some of their behaviors in the gym, and some of that can be not helpful. Well, think about that from the other spectrum too. So you have regular old people with mental issues that have gone unresolved. Now they're not moving their body, or when they've moved their body, they've injured it or something. So it can spread one way or the other. And what you want is longevity in whatever space you're in. And so I think, having what's been nice is you've been kind of going through a mental health journey of your own alongside me. And we've been working sort of tandemly, not only on my body, but individually, mentally. And then we're kind of talking about it as you're working on me. So it's like Ciara's a little bit of a therapist at the same time. So, but and that's what's cool is if you get the right bodywork person, I think they probably want to know you on a deeper level so that they can actually meet you where you really are, so that they can walk you through this healing process that you go through.
The thing that's just so unfortunate is it's really hard to find quality body workers that will approach their clients that way. I mean, when I was in massage school, I was really kind of pissed off when we went around the classroom and did our ice breaking stuff, telling us who we are, why we were there. And I was very surprised with how many people were saying it's a job. And I'm just like, why would you want to touch people and put like you're healing people? Like why would you want to do this just and you're not passionate about it? Like I don't believe if you don't want to help someone, you have no business touching somebody.
Right.
Like and unfortunately there's just a lot of massage therapists who just see massage as a job and they see their client as another person. And if you have that feeling when you go in and get a massage from someone that you're just another number, please don't go back
Right.
because because you're not going to get the benefits you're looking for.
Well,
Ask
it goes,
questions.
yeah,
Ask questions to your
you're
therapist.
talking the exact same language as me and Laura. So yeah, there's plenty of coaches you can go to that can
Yes.
give you a basic diet. And when you start asking questions, what happens? They don't know, or they
Yeah.
don't have a conversation about it, or they're like, just follow the plan, Ciara, or whatever the situation is. So like you, it's the quality, and that's why I wanted to bring you on, because you're just this physical manifestation. You're touching people physically, and we're doing this remote coaching thing, and we're essentially like, if I had a Ciara in every single person's support system that I work with, we would make a lot more movements towards where we need to go. And I think ideally, the takeaways for tonight, at least in my mind, are find somebody that cares, that actually is passionate about what they do, and recognizes themselves as a healer. Like when you put on that cloak of like, I'm a healer, you're entering in the world in a different place, and you're looking at people in a different in a different lens.
You know
So
what?
that's why we hit it off.
I'm gonna add to that because when you've been talking about this, there's that piece to it where you have to be careful. And we talk about this all the time, right? You have to be careful about the energy that you allow into your space. And
Absolutely.
when you go to a bodywork person and they are working on your body holds your soul. Your body holds your memories. Your body holds all of your emotions and all of your feelings. And when they touch parts of your body and they do the work that they do, they release those things. And it has to be a safe, positive space for you to be able to do that. And I
Yeah.
think that is the most important thing. And I think, Ciara, that's what you were talking about, is find someone who will honor that because they are honoring themselves by the work that they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then on top of that, you want to take, you know, maybe not everybody's a good fit for Sierra because she works with bodybuilders and that's her preference. Maybe you need to have somebody that's passionate about Karen, you know, or whatever the situation is. And
I mean, yeah, there are massage therapists who are just solely want people to relax. And
right,
that's great and that's very much needed. But there's so many, like I said, you have
it's just
mechanic that works.
nuance.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So pick like find your lane of wherever you are and find a bodywork person that fits that and then use that in conjunction with your training and your nutrition and also have a goal. So like for me and you, our goal right now is to get me through a growth phase with as much flexibility as I can have to be able to execute exercises with full range of motion so that I can grow the muscles that I'm working on with with the utmost execution. So that's our goal right now. And then once we get, you know, past that phase, our goals might change or I might have an injury or something like that. Like have somebody that will walk alongside you over the long haul. Like I don't, I mean, you know, there's been times where I go to you once a week. Right now I'm going to you every other week. I might I might go to you every week soon. Or who knows? Like I want to be able to toggle our relationship to as many times as I can or as little as I need, but that relationship with you will never go away because the value that you bring to my life in helping me achieve my goals, helping me achieve the longevity in the sport or also my health in general. Like man, if I ever have to get to a place where, like, say you and Logan have a little baby girl and I got to protect, you know, her on her first date, like, I'm going to chase somebody down. Hopefully, you've done enough body work on me where, you know, I can do that. So, but
Oh,
what
okay.
I'm
I don't
saying,
know. I need a Sierra in my life, and I don't live in North Carolina. I'm just gonna say it. So, Sierra, anytime you want to visit wherever I happen to be living, because God knows where that's going to be in the near future. But um, I think that ultimately is what Kenneth is saying: is find someone that is your Sierra.
right.
Yeah.
And
Things that you could look for in any area if you want to Google myofascial therapist. Massage therapists who specialize in myofascial releases, they tend to work slower. They tend to work from superficial to deep. They don't go straight to just deep because that's what most deep tissue and sports massage therapists do, um, which works for some people. You know, they're like, yeah, they cupped the hell out of me and they scraped me until I was raw, but I feel better. Well, yeah, they got the deep stuff out, but look at how much your body had to endure to get to that point.
sure, yeah,
So,
Yeah.
if you want that aggressive stuff, and it works for you, then keep going to there. But like if you're someone who goes to a deep tissue massage, therapist and you just can't stand it and you're sweating bullets, like you said you were with that first woman, then that's just not the right therapist for you. Um, People who have the higher pain tolerances who don't tense up and can stay relaxed and just breathe through it,
Mhm.
the aggressive work might be better for them because they're going to have more they're going to have more releases because they're just getting deeper into it. But it's it's all about meeting people where they're at. So if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. So find a therapist that you feel safe with and that you feel you can just ask any
That's
question.
another thing too. I was gonna, because we just said that the other day. I was sitting in your, I was sitting on the table, and I was like, I think you're like one of like three people where I could basically almost be naked in the room and just be as comfortable as I could be, and
Yeah.
like there's no self-consciousness in my head about the way I look or anything like that.
Right.
So the level of safety that you have, or how you feel around your therapist is key too, especially for people that have never done it before. It can kind of be and that can be a sticking point. But I wanted to ask too, like, where can people find you if they're in the Raleigh area, Durham area, Cary area, or are you taking new clients? Your Instagram, all that stuff. So go ahead
Yeah.
and shout that out.
So I have an office off of Six Forks in Raleigh, and I am taking new clients at the time. My Instagram is Beneath It All by Ciara. And my business name really does, describe what I want to do. Like, I want to help you get beneath it all, mind, body, soul, all of it. And as much as you want to open up to me, I will receive and help you as much as I can in any way I can. And even for, people reach out to me and I tell them straight up, I don't think that I'm the right therapist for you. I have plenty of resources to outsource you to. So if you just have a question about, hey, I don't necessarily think I need what you have to offer, but I am interested in getting body work. I can help people find out specifically what they're looking for, because everything matters, price point, location, everything's, people's priorities are different. Some people are all about convenience. Oh, that's 20 minutes away, that's too far. Some people are just after the price point. Some people are after quality. They don't care how much you pay or how far you drive. So like it really just depends on what you're looking for. But I have people from different states, message me on Instagram and they're like, "Hey, obviously I'm nowhere near you, but like how can I find a good therapist?" I ask them certain questions and then yeah, I'm I'd love to help anyone who's trying to help themselves because ultimately that's what I really want to do is help people help themselves. Turning inwards is really the key to healing is listening to yourself, listening to your body, listening to your intuition.
Right.
Awesome. Well,
I
Sierra, thank you.
appreciate it.
Oh my God, it was so, so nice to meet you. Your energy
Nice to meet you.
incredible. I'm so glad that Kenneth decided that this was something we absolutely had to do. I'm glad that we get to bring you to the masses, and we will definitely keep connecting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very
Yeah.
welcome.
I'll see you next week or this week, maybe.
And for those of you listening, we will have another episode, of course, coming up. But if you do have questions about body work or anything having to do with Reiki or anything like that, we will definitely have Sierra's information in the notes. So please check her out on Instagram and check us out on Instagram and share us with your friends because we're fun. Do it.